are we still in the most repetitive era of design?
It takes months and sometimes years to build that.
Are you also in the race where you're focusing on how the algorithms are working, what trends are focusing on right now?
There's no art movement, there's nothing happening.
I think it'll give you visibility, but it'll give you short-lived visibility.
Pictures are your kit to start your PR.
I feel like it kills what the designer may want to show.
You have to have depth to it.
Hello and welcome to the Editor's Cut by Eztablish Design. We have some esteemed guests with us today who will share with us their experiences and their traumas. I would like to start the conversation with Karan. Karan has also been an architect. Karan, yours is a very young magazine. As someone who's existed in both architecture and public conversations, how has the need for online visibility changed the way architects and designers are presenting themselves? And has it influenced the design itself?
That's a very interesting question. I feel like, can I give you a dual answer, like a dual facet answer?
Of course.
I feel like the way we perceive architecture and interiors today has changed dramatically. You know, I feel like it's now for the photograph rather than for the space.
Yeah.
I do feel like that is a downside in its own way.
Correct.
So, let me put this to you, Shriya. With the influx of, I'm sure you get, I don't know how many projects in a day. So, what makes it to your page?
So I think it's, as you rightly said, we get so many projects. Right now, it's not about finding things, it's about selecting what actually cuts it. But I think mainly it's the emotional value that each space has. I think it's very important. And I think we have moved forward from the Instagrammable movement in a house to what actually matters for the person that's living inside, residing in that home. And also the designer's personality that's reflected through their space. You have
Sana,
to be
would
there.
you like to add on that?
Yeah, I think also adding on to that, it also depends on what the ethos of your brand is, of your magazine, of your platform is. And you need to keep continuously tapping into that and seeing if that project, if that space aligns with the kind of audience that you have garnered because of the ethos that you stand for. So again, it comes down to what do you represent and does that align with your representation?
So, editorial platforms obviously have a lot of power in this sense because you are the ones who are bringing out the designs that the designers are executing. Now we see that algorithms are ruling everything, right? So, how is it going? Are you also in the race where you're focusing on how the algorithms are working, what trends are focusing on right now, and you want to amplify that and showcase that work, or are you still at a place where you want to see good stuff coming out and not follow trends and algorithms?
So I think there needs to be a balance for that. Like I said, again, what you're putting out needs to match the ethos of the brand that you're representing. And on top of that, when you say algorithms, of course, we are all pressurized. We all have some pressures, right? Initially, it used to be subscriptions, but now for say magazines, digital platforms, you have algorithms. And the beauty of algorithm is that it sort of always tries to customize what you're viewing for you. So what you have on your feed is very unique to you. And I think that is good for the viewer. And it's also good for the magazine that's putting out. I don't think we need to sort of completely give in to that, pressure or to stand out continuously. There is an audience for every content. And if you stand true to what your brand is, eventually you will find the right kind of people who will appreciate the work that you're putting out. So I think there needs to be a balance. And the algorithm will help you with it. It'll show it to the right people who need to see it.
Karan, what's your take on this?
See, I would like to use two adjectives for this. One is responsibility and one is privilege. Right? So as a publication, I feel like firstly, I have the privilege to kind of witness what is happening in our world today. I think we're in an era where change is happening so quick. It's never happened this quick ever before, right? I was speaking to Sandeep and Tanya Coastline. They told me that, I asked them, there's no art movement, there's nothing happening. And they said that's because you're in the movement. You're living in the art movement today. And say 30 years later, people will look back and reflect on this time and realize that maybe you are the art movement, right? And the responsibility also lies as to what you document and what you put forward, right? So I'm are going to talk about it from the commercial angle or from, where a magazine needs to survive, but completely from ethos or from the way I look at design and I look at space. I feel like it is very important that we take responsibility for what we're putting out there, and because it reflects on who you are at the end of the day, right? And designers don't realize it, publications don't realize it, but in the long term, it creates a positive or a negative impact that answers to who you are. And that's what I feel.
So clearly, up till now, we know that content is the key, right? So Nadezna, since you write for a lot of publications, how does this digital influx influence your writing? Do you think it asks you for change of content?
It's supposed to, but I have the privilege of coming from a position where, again, I don't have to worry about these things. I write for different publications. What I want to do when I write is, this is where I think the intelligent discourse is. I want to ask, what is that design solving? Why did you do that particular thing? And it can be really, what you would say, mundane as budgets or logistics or climate. But why did that design come about? I need to ask those questions. Then I need to take that raw information and I have to parlay that into something that is a great story, a great compelling narrative.
True. Very well said. Absolutely.
Guys, so are we in the most exciting era of design, or what is it? Are we still in the most repetitive era of design? Because now that we have so many Instagram pages, Pinterest boards, magazines, so does it feel like it's just like a lot of it feels like copy pasting, or it feels like it's borrowing from the same ideas and it's doing the same thing? Or does it feel like you rightly said, that this could be that moment that we are in, that's why we don't even realize it?
Okay, so I feel like we always respond to a time, like the era that we are in or the moment we are in. For example, I mean, you got art movements that evolved out of, say, post-war. There were art movements pre-war, right? So I feel like gradually we are now as designers responding to the crises or the time that we are in, and as publications I have started seeing work that responds to that. Of course, there will always be copy paste, there will always be plagiarism, but that is how it's always been. It's not like we are in a position today where plagiarism is suddenly taking over the world or any of that. But it's a very interesting question, because I do feel like we're in an era where design is so quick, it is so inspirational, and there is so much happening. And because that's why I started Mono architecture, because as an architect, I had become stagnant. The moment I started a publication and I started reading, I realized that there is so much happening out there that we have not tapped into, that is not getting featured, that is not getting published. And that is why I wanted to kind of tap into that and understand what's happening out there. So yes, I do agree with the question.
But then in this digital space, do we give in to trends, then the focus of what actually needs to be out there? Do we give in to numbers, then the focus of what really values the design? Is that what do you guys think within your own space? Is that at times where you have to kind of cut that balance and do it because, yes, like you said, there's pressure, and there is pressure, right? All of us are operating under pressure. So how far are we allowed to take that stand? Do you think that works?
I think sorry.
Please go ahead.
I think it'll give you visibility, but it'll give you short-lived visibility. You have to have depth to it. If you don't have depth, it's not going to last. I'm talking very specifically from the content side of things. There is a particular creator whose work I really love, Clinton Baptist, I think. Long form, deep dives, but consistent. Short path. He puts up short little snippets from it every day, but it is 2 hours long, and he doesn't have a niche, but he talks to architects, he talks to money people, he talks to health. His thing is a deep dive. He gives context, he gives depth, he gives an understanding, but it comes from his own understanding also of it and bringing out the story. So I don't think we should just talk about speed, but I don't think we should be scared about it either. I don't think it's the enemy. I think we need to work with it.
What about you, Shriya?
Yeah, I think the balance is very important. Like,
Yeah.
we cannot be scared or we cannot leave trends. Of course.
True.
Again, it's a pressure. We need to do it. As a publication, we have to have some trends going on. But we have to segregate our content in buckets. What do we need to present accessibly? What has to go out as short form content which will follow or which will be engaged by the algorithm? And what actually needs to have depth, which actually needs to have conversation, the point of view of the designer or the space or the brand, what needs to be put out, what was the material choices, the cultural references. So it's important to check which content goes in which bucket. So the balance is very important. You have to manage both together.
So this is actually very nice because it brings me to my next point where let's look at it from the audience's perspective, right? What are they consuming more? Are they looking for example, written pieces where you have 5 types of bedroom, these are 5 interesting design ideas, 5 kitchen ideas, or are they looking at wholesome projects more where they can see an entire house and the design language behind it?
I feel what Sana said, that we have audiences, all types of audiences. We have audiences who might be renovating a space and they might be interested in seeing the 4 bedrooms, top bedrooms, or how can you renovate them. There might be people who are building a home and in a certain style. It can be boho chic, it can be minimal, and they would like to see the whole space, how it comes together, each space, how they connect to a personal theme.
Correct.
So we have what sorts of audiences. What's important is that our content just goes and targets the right audience. I think that's what matters.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. I also think it depends on the platform that you're showcasing it on. Long form content, obviously, websites and newsletters, there are ways to do that. Short form content is again very scrollable. So I think it depends on the right platform and the right packaging for that platform. So the same information can be packaged in multiple ways. So the right packaging on the right platform, it just hit the spot.
Even the language, right? Because it's very evidently used that Instagram is fluff language, which is easy to consume.
Yeah.
Whereas, like you said, deep diving and long formats,
not
there is
gonna
a
find it on-
seriousness of language that enters into that. And that's why people take that platform, like Sana rightly said, that if I want to learn something more in detail, I'd not go to an Instagram. I would go to the YouTube video and I would go and figure that out. So rightly said, like you need to package it for
It's
the
an
platform.
ecosystem of different platforms you're using to give, like you use each platform differently, because I would not put up a how-to on Instagram.
But what we have realized in our practice is starting from the time where, we used to say the pictures are your kit to start your PR. Now that landscape has changed majorly. Okay, now it's no more only the kit. That's one of the parts of the kit. We have many, many more that we have. Oh, do you have a video? Oh, do you have yourself talking about it? Oh, we can do a walkthrough.
Yeah.
So is that losing the essence of the project because you're compiling so many things in one particular project? Or do you guys feel that it gives you one more aspect of that particular project? How does that feel? Karan, let's start with you.
So I feel like it's something like this is very narrative driven, and the narrative must not be defined only by the end consumer. It must also be defined by the creator, the space, right? So I mean, when we have restrictions to even things like this. So for example, if I'm making a long format of a project that someone has completed and is being submitted to me, right? There are rules. You must shoot in a certain way. You must shoot in a certain. So what happens with that is at that point of time, I feel like it kills what the designer may want to show. Why not? If someone wants to shoot it at night, right, with the lights on, why not, right? Or if someone wants to shoot a 90-second video instead of a 60-second video, why not, right? So I feel like what we're trying to do at Moño also is that with our YouTube format, for example, right, we're doing 40-minute videos, we're doing 60-minute videos. Initially, I thought that nobody is going to watch, it's not going to work. But I said it doesn't matter because the voice is out there. When the time is right, someone will watch it. So instead of following a narrative, I feel like creating a narrative is extremely important, and in today's day and age, narratives are not being created. Everyone is afraid. There is fear. Like everyone is afraid that if I do things in a way that is not being accepted by, say, 4 people around me, then people will speak, people will talk,
criticize,
which is fine. It's okay. Life
very
will go on. We are here tomorrow. We are not going to be there. It's okay. You have to understand that everything happens for a reason, and the person who does this inevitably creates a movement, and that is extremely important. So I feel like we have to be a little more fearless, we have to be a little more brave, we have to be able to speak what we feel, of course without hurting sentiments.
True.
So I mean, yeah, that's what I feel about the whole.
Sana?
Yeah, I think on a daily basis, you and I, we both get so many projects, right? Like
True.
I'm sure all of us get a lot of projects, hundreds probably, every single day. But if you look at one project, it takes months and sometimes years to build that. And we are showcasing that for probably minutes.
True.
And I think, like you said, there are so much dialogue that's around this one particular project. It might look like, because for us, it might look like, oh, that's a lot of material. But if you actually look at it from the creator's perspective, from the
Correct.
architect's perspective, because when you're designing, it has taken months of your time. It has taken months of your personality. There's so many stories, even in the tiniest details. So
True.
I think it's using these multiple mediums is just adding so much value to the work. And I think this is sort of, a step towards doing justice to the amount of work that has gone into the space. Because, although it might look very glamorous on the outside, there's so much sweat that goes into it.
Correct.
I think this is one way of honoring that work that is being put.
True.
Guys, that brings us to the end of this conversation.
Thank you for keeping up with
Thank you
us,
so
for
much.
the patience, and thank you
It
very
was so
much.
much fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.